thegearnetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is sponsored by our store through Amazon. If you visit shopgear.com, please remember to do that, because when you do, you provide gasoline to the engine known as Gear Radio Network, and that helps this podcast continue. It is the best way to shop for yourself, and is the best way to support this podcast. Now, on with the show. You're listening to Better Live Than Dead.
I believe it's a big challenge for our building to keep things in perspective and to, if we're going to get addicted to anything, let's get addicted to the process.
And welcome, episode number 31 of Trust the Podcast, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the Gear Radio Network. I am Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTV. This is episode number 31, week 9, Buffalo Bills versus Chicago Bears. Trust the Podcast. Before I introduce my esteemed co-host, you can hear us on BetterLiveThanDead.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, review, whatever it is that you guys like to do with the podcast these days. Those damn kids, I don't know what they do with their podcasts, but do what you can. Keep listening. We appreciate you. And with that being said, joining me on the IndyCar Media Hotline, Brayton Wilson at BJ Wilson, WGR on Twitter. How you doing today, buddy?
Doing all right. How are you there, Ryan?
I'm well. I'm recording this podcast from my car on my lunch break, because if there's nothing I love doing more than talk the Bills, it's talk the Bills from the driver's seat of a 2015 Honda Civic. Good way to put it. Now, the Buffalo Bills are still bad. If you were worried, they're still very bad. They lose to the Chicago Bears 41-9. And Brayton, I don't really know if there's much more to say other than that.
It was an ugly game, that's for sure, on Sunday. You know, the offense, once again, couldn't get anything going under Nathan Peterman. Peterman, mind you, I know 2 of the interceptions probably weren't his fault, but he throws 3 more interceptions to his career total. And overall, it was just a sloppy game for the offense. The defense looks pretty good, not bad at all, but man, just can't score points.
And I do apologize, heads up, just to start off with, if the quality's kind of choppy, I'm recording on a hotspot, so I apologize for the lack of quality here on the podcast. We're trying our hardest to make this happen. But yes, Brayton, I agree. The offense was not good. Nathan Peterman was not good. And that brings me to the first big thing of this week. Nate is not so great. We knew that already, but Nathan Peterman was 31 for 49, 189 yards, no touchdowns, 3 picks. Now he becomes another record holder. He is the first player in NFL history to complete 30-plus passes with fewer than 198 passing yards. It had been done before, but the 189 passing yards is an NFL record. No one has thrown for more and had less. So I guess there's that. But also, Nathan Peterman's 3 interceptions actually bring his career regular season interception percentage down from 11.1% to 9.2%. Both those stats via at Nick Veronica on Twitter. Nathan Peterman did lead the Buffalo Bills though in rushes with 8 rushes, 46 yards and a touchdown. Maybe he'll consider a position change. I'm not sure, because the Buffalo Bills running backs are not good. But no. I thought, at some point you start to kind of feel bad for the guy, Brayton, because, we can joke and we can lay into him as much as we see fit, because it's a podcast, and that's what we do on a podcast. We make fun of people and we point out the funny things and the bad things. But this guy has no business being an NFL quarterback. I mean, maybe it was his dream or something, and Sean McDermott loves that about him, and he loves it as a blue-collar player or whatever. But we know now, I mean, it's not even he had one shot, one opportunity to seize everything he ever wanted. It wasn't that way. He's had multiple chances and multiple times, and he's had a season and a half of growth and development, and nothing is happening there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just amazing that this guy is still on this team, despite the fact that, Derek Anderson could be returning at some point this week, and Josh Allen is getting closer and closer to returning. Nathan Peterman is getting backed by the coaching staff and getting backed by the organization on what terms at this point? Is it because he's a hard worker? Is it because, they don't think that, they want to have a third quarter. I have no idea why he would still be on this roster at this point. It's a little bit mind-boggling at this point to try and figure out why he is still here when he's proven time and time again that he's just not a competent quarterback. And you bring up the point that, he led the team in rushing. And it's just such I don't want to hear anymore about a ground and pound, run the ball type of offense. I want, especially in Buffalo, I want to hear, hey, the Bills have a very good passing offense with a good passing quarterback. And yeah, if the guy can run on his feet every once in a while, that's awesome. Or if the Bills have to integrate the run game every once in a while, that's awesome. But I mean, you shouldn't be hearing, hey, run games are dominating the NFL anymore. It's a passing league. So, and Nathan Peterman can't do that. He can't pass the ball well. He can't move the ball efficiently. I mean, when he's throwing 3.4 yards per attempt, that's never going to get it done in the NFL. It's abysmal with how that performance was. And he tried 49 passes. So it's really disturbing. It's really just awful to watch. It's awful to look at the stats and think how this offense is going to get any better with Nathan Peterman or for that matter. I mean, it's just, I don't know how he's still here in a Bills uniform.
It does blow my mind, but hey, there's good news coming. Josh Allen is day-to-day. He threw about 100 passes a couple days ago. I don't suspect that he'll play this week, but most likely after the bye week, it'll probably be Josh Allen time again. So there's that. But really to try to remain positive, it's very difficult because I feel like the last few weeks of the podcast too, Brayton, we've been talking about the same stuff because it's really been the same. The Bills have been bad. There's been no real attempt to improve, and they just are cool with being bad, it seems. But speaking of that, our stats of the game, because again, we have some fantastic stats thanks to Twitter. Pro Football Talk highlights that there are, quote, 44 quarterbacks who have thrown at least 10 passes this season. The Buffalo Bills literally have the 3 worst quarterbacks in the league. Josh Allen ranks 42nd. Derek Anderson ranks 43rd. Nathan Peterman ranks 44th. That's passer rating, by the way. So they are not very good. And then Aaron Schatz of Football Outsiders notes that the Buffalo Bills offense has the worst DVOA ever through 9 games with a negative 54.4% DVOA. And for those out there who have heard this stat but don't know what it means, DVOA stands for defensive or defense adjusted value over average. Essentially, thanks to Wikipedia, we know it calculates a team's success based on the down and distance of each play during the season, then calculates how much more or less successful each team is compared to the league average. So the Bills offense is legitimately, statistically, one of the worst we have ever seen through 9 games, and there's no end in sight.
And it's pretty sad that this team continues to put out the product they do, and that's why a lot of people have been pretty critical about what is going on with the Bills, and why some people are saying, hey, this is all on McDermott, this is all on Bean, which I don't know if I want to throw that much blame at those guys, but I mean, the offense certainly was not paid attention to as much as the defense this year. You look back at the draft, the Bills traded up to get Allen, and there was a lot of thought that, hey, he wasn't going to play for a while. We want to bring him along. We want to progress him along just fine. But he had to come in early because, they needed him to come in early because of Nathan Peterman. And they traded away A.J. McCarron, and then they finally brought in Derek Anderson. But what is Derek Anderson going to do for the offense? So the sooner that Josh Allen gets in, the better. But it's still concerning to see that when Allen is not on his game, they can't get the run game going all that well. LeSean McCoy is having a heck of a year. He's struggling so bad. But the offensive line certainly doesn't help. And I mean, I was looking up some stats earlier. I mean, the offensive line just not only can they not block, but they do cost the Bills quite often. I mean, a guy like Deion Dawkins, who I think is still a good offensive tackle, he's one of the most penalized offensive linemen in the entire league. So, I mean, penalties have got to stop. They've got to, batten down the hatches on the offensive line. They got to be able to provide some protection for not only, Josh Allen or whoever's playing quarterback, but they also have to open up some spaces for LeSean McCoy. And yeah, it hurts that Richie Incognito and Eric Wood aren't there still, but you got to figure out a way somehow. And will that ever come? I don't know.
Yeah, continually saying that, they're gone and there's nothing we can do about it. Like that's all fine and dandy, but it just definitely seems like, those are the kind of things. And I know that you guys over at WGR 550 have talked about it a bunch, really ad nauseum lately. That things just continue to, they keep trending in the right direction, or in the wrong direction, I should say, with like I said, with no end in sight. And it doesn't seem like the Buffalo Bills know where they want to go, or know even what they want to do with the offense. I mean, we know that the goal was to kind of be bad still, because, if they wanted to be good, if the Buffalo Bills wanted to be good, Josh Allen would not have started a game this season, and Tyrod Taylor would still be the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, and they'd be running the same exact stuff they were running last year because it worked. But they thought it was time for a change, as we've talked about a lot throughout this podcast, and it's just not getting any better. And like you mentioned, LeSean McCoy, our third big thing of the week, his quest for 11,000 yards continues at a snail's pace. He had 10 rushes for 10 yards on Sunday, a pathetic effort, but it's not, he seems mentally burnt out. Like, he does not seem like he is there with the team when they're playing, but also the blocking has been poor. And even Sean McDermott said on Sunday he wanted to see what other players could give. And it really goes back to the last three games. McCoy has had 24 carries for 24 yards in the last three games combined. The first game he had the concussion, then it was the Patriots game, and then it was last week's game against the Bears. Now, McCoy remains 29th all-time with 10,359 yards and is now 20 behind 20th place Marshawn Lynch, who has 10,379 yards, and Eddie George remains in 27th place, retired, 10,441 yards. Now, also, real quick before we look ahead to next week, Brayton, quest for the highest pick. If the season were to end today, which obviously it won't, the Buffalo Bills would pick fourth overall due to strength of schedule. They have the same record as the San Francisco 49ers, but the strength of schedule goes to the 49ers, so they get the third pick. Mock drafts I've seen have had the Buffalo Bills selecting Jonah Williams, offensive tackle out of Alabama. As time goes on throughout the season, probably after the bye week, we'll start to focus just a little more on some potential prospects that the Bills could be looking at to try to spice things up a little here, because I'm sure you guys get sick of listening to us yammer on every single week about how bad the Bills are and how bad Nathan Peterman is. So we'll try to bring some positivity to the podcast coming up soon. But Brayton, it's looking like at this point maybe the best thing for the Bills is just to lose out.
Yeah, it's been not pretty for the Bills. But you look at the schedule ahead, and they've still got some tough challenges. Jacksonville, they're not that good this year, but they're playing better. You still got a Detroit team that has looked at times very good and then other times very formidable. Then you still got your divisional matchups with the Dolphins, the Jets, and also the one matchup in New England against the Patriots. So, looking ahead for the rest of the season, yeah, maybe the best thing to do would be to lose some games and go for the high pick, just so you can be guaranteed of getting a pretty good player. I almost a great player, but there have been plenty of busts that have been in the top tier of the draft. But a really good player. The Sabres, the Sabres. Pardon me, we're not doing a Sabercast, we're doing a Trust podcast. The Bills, though, I'm looking ahead to the schedule, and I could see another 2 wins in there, but I don't know. Maybe you split the season series with the Jets, and maybe you split with the Dolphins. But Miami, they are playing pretty well recently, and yeah, they have Brock Osweiler as their quarterback. So I don't know what to think of them. Jacksonville, yeah, I don't know what to think of them either. But with the Jets, they're probably the team that maybe you can get a win or two against, because they're not a good team necessarily. They have a young rookie quarterback as well in Sam Darnold, who has struggled over the past few weeks. So anything can happen, but certainly at this point, I think that, getting the high pick would be the more fulfilling thing for the rest of the season, with the way that they're 2-7 right now.
And as you mentioned, the New York Jets will push us over to our look ahead, brought to you by 26 Shirts. Buffalo Volume 6. They are on to their 6th volume. That's how many shirts they put out. It's pretty impressive stuff that they've got going on over there, which I did see also. Many congratulations to the 26 Shirts friends Entire volume 6 will be sponsored by West Her, which is pretty cool. That's pretty notable, and it will continue the dream of keeping 26 shirts rocking and rolling here. Now, Volume 6, Shirt 1, entitled Just Watch It Now, the latest shirt beneficiary. $8 from every t-shirt sale goes to Units, who strives to be the recognized leader in multifaceted delivery of exceptional donor-centered organ, tissue, eye, and blood donation services to the Western New York community. So get a shirt, help out a good organization in the Western New York community that helps people. So it's a win-win situation for everybody involved. Week 10, Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. They head over to the Meadowlands to face the 3-6 Jets. I want to say New York Jets, but I really think they should be the New Jersey Jets just because I'm bitter and know that the Bills are the only actual New York-based football team. But Sam Darnold, as you mentioned, Brayton, has struggled. 4 interceptions last week against Miami. He's had 7 picks in the last 3 games. The Jets' offense statistically is poor. It's better than the Bills' offense. As we mentioned, nobody really can be worse than that. And the Jets' defense is average. I mean, this will probably be a relatively difficult football game for fans to watch, as if most of the season hasn't already been. But think of it this way, Brayton. The Buffalo Bills are 60 minutes away from a bye week. We don't have to worry about football. We don't got to worry about a Bills loss. 1 week closer to the off season, 1 week closer to not having to worry about the Bills anymore this season.
I'm sorry, you kind of broke up. What was that last part you were trying to say?
Oh, that's okay. I'm just saying the Bills are 60 minutes away from nobody having to worry about them for a week, and that puts us 1 week closer to the season being over and not having to worry about them for a while.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. I mean, looking ahead to this week, it's all about Josh Allen, if he can play or not. If Josh Allen can play, there's a purpose to watching this game. If Josh Allen can't play, then is it going to be Derek Anderson or is it going to be Nathan Peterman? And Derek Anderson's not even practicing today. So it's, and as we're recording, it's Wednesday, so he's not even going to be practicing today, so that's not good news for him. And Derek Anderson can't play and Josh Allen can't play, then we're back on the Nathan Peterman train once again, unless Matt Barkley comes to practice and starts out throwing Nathan Peterman, which I don't know, but just hope that Josh Allen can get back, and when he does come back, that he is ready to go and he is slinging, because I think that's the biggest thing up to this point is, okay, the playoffs are pretty much not an option anymore. There's really little to no hope that the Bills can make the playoffs at this point. They got to win out or that's it. So from here on out, when Allen comes back, you just want to see progress. You want to see if he can, work on his footwork a little bit, maybe help improve his accuracy. You can't, I mean, obviously I know the whole cliche, well, you can't teach accuracy in the NFL, yada, yada, yada. But you can certainly work on your mechanics and work on your footwork to help improve your accuracy. And then, just see Josh Allen making some good throws and leading the team down the field and getting some good offensive chances. That's all you want to see from the rest of the season with Josh Allen in. If that happens, and if he actually has learned anything from Derek Anderson, that's wonderful. That's great. And we can all be very high hopeful about Allen's future here in the NFL. But just other than that, I mean, the defense is doing everything they can to try and win games, and the offense just sputters every time they go out onto the field. So looking ahead to Sunday's game, I think that they'll go to New York, and I'm going to say that Josh Allen will play. I think he will get back in the lineup. He is limited at practice once again today. So that's at least a good sign. So we'll see how it goes for the rest of the week. But I'm going to predict that he does play, but I don't think it's going to matter anyway. I think the Jets will still get a win, and I'm going to say the final score is going to be 24-14. I say the Bills actually get more than 10 points this week, but it's still not going to be enough.
I was just going to say I'm going to go 24-10. That just seems like a good enough score to me. That seems like a Jets-Bills score. And to point out too, real quick, we will have Brayton. I didn't tell you this yet, but I'm going to have John on the podcast next week. John Cimino, the self-appointed Bills Mafia's favorite Jets fan, will be on the podcast next week to talk about the Jets, the Bills. That'll be great because maybe he can shine some sunlight into the podcast or something, because I know me and Brayton were pretty gloomy about these Bills, but hey, that's what happens when you watch these Bills all the time. You start to realize how poor they actually are. So, with that being said, I am Ryan Wolfe at WolfeBLTD on Twitter. Brayton is at BJ Wilson WGR on Twitter. We are Trust Podcast. We still kind of, sort of, I guess, trust the process. I'm not too sure about that one. I mean, I definitely sold all my process trusting stocks a while ago, and we're frauds. Okay, we're frauds. That's what we're trying to say. But we appreciate you tuning in. Like we said, check us out, betterlifethandead.com, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Google Play, iTunes. I don't know if I said that already. If I did, who cares? It's our podcast. We can do what we want. Thank you for tuning in again. And I guess, go Bills.
See ya.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.